Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer, and we are going to be diving into this transit, this 20-year transit as Pluto enters the sign of Aquarius on the 20th of January. So this is all going to begin at the start of Aquarius season. So as the sun enters Aquarius on the 20th of January, Pluto will also join. And the really interesting thing about this actually is that Pluto will be at 0 degrees, and then throughout Aquarius season, so many planets will enter this sign. So we'll have Pluto conjunct Mercury, we'll have Pluto conjunct Mars, we'll have Pluto conjunct Venus. So yeah, many big shifts are up ahead. So I'm just going to present this information to you. What we're actually going to be doing today is we're going to be exploring, yes, Pluto in Aquarius, but we're also going to be taking a look at the positions of Saturn and Uranus. Okay, this is important because both Saturn and Uranus rule Aquarius. Okay, so looking at how Saturn is the traditional ruler and then Uranus is the modern day ruler. So we really want to assess where these planets are whilst Pluto is in Aquarius, because these planets are going to give us more information about this 20-year transit. But not only that, we're also going to be exploring Neptune. So the reason why we're going to be looking at Neptune is because Neptune is another generational planet. So we've got Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune are all generational planets. Pluto, I suppose you could say, is like the main generational planet because it takes about 248 years for Pluto to orbit the sun. And so Pluto tends to stay in signs longer. And so really aiming at a bigger pool of people. But Uranus and Neptune add other layers. So these planets can show these kind of sub-generations within the main generation. I'm pretty sure that the next generation, so thinking about the Pluto and Aquarius generation, I think they're going to be called Generation Beta, perhaps. So we're going to get into this. I hope you're looking forward to it. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I really, really hope that you find this information to be useful. I've broken it down to the best of my ability, but of course, there's going to be so much more content and so much more information as time progresses because, it's 20 years. Hello, Kayla. I am good. Thank you very much. How are you doing today? You've got an Aquarius rising, so this is definitely a significant shift for you with that first house activation. Hello, Alexander. Welcome. And hello, Manda. Welcome. Okay. So just to let you know, of course, there are some astrology products, okay, over at hannahselsewhere.com. You can book a reading with me if you would like. And if you are interested in early access to new videos, you can always join the Patreon. There's actually a video up right now talking all about the Gemini symbolism. You can also gain access to daily forecasts over there. And I just want to say thank you so much to my patrons over at Patreon. Thank you for all of your support. Okay, so let's try and break this down. Let's go over these major sort of keywords to do with Pluto and then Aquarius. So Pluto, as you can see, is represented by things like, it represents things like destruction, collapses, corruption. And the main sort of keyword that I think of when I consider Pluto, extremes. Okay. This is what happens in society in general. Okay. When it comes to certain generations, what happens when it comes to generations? We change, right? So it gets to a point where it's like out with the old, in with the new. This is what happens. This is what repeats within society. This is how we sort of evolve as humans. So kind of imagine Pluto as the extremist, okay? So if you can imagine taking things to such an extreme where it's too much, right? It's overwhelming. There's too much pressure. And then there's a climax, right? Then there's a push for the opposite direction. Okay. Life sort of goes like that. It's sort of like a pendulum. it kind of swings from one side of the extreme to the other side of the extreme. And you see this within society, don't you? Especially with Aquarius. Okay. So Aquarius can be seen as a very fanatical sign. Okay. Aquarius can be a sign where it's like, no, 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 these are my strong views and my strong beliefs and my strong opinions. Okay. Aquarius is a fixed sign. So having a really strong opinion about something, and it can be really hard to kind of have a bit of a balance or to have a discussion because someone's mind is so made up on X, Y, and Z. So combine that energy with extremes, and you see this. This is so evident within our world. It's like whatever topic it is, whatever topic or subject it is, people go to the one side of the situation very extremely, and then other people go to another side of the situation very, very extremely. But of course, there's still many people who are set in the middle, or they fall within a spectrum. Okay. There are people who do consider the gray. And this is the other thing about Aquarius I just want to say. Aquarius can also be objective. Okay. So trying to remain objective, trying to kind of go, okay, well, I can see this way. Okay. I'm hearing this point of view. And it's more so about, okay, well, these are the facts and this is the information. And it's not trying to have your sort of personal views or feelings involved. Okay. It's more about, okay, what knowledge is being presented? Look here to the symbol of Aquarius, okay? The symbol of Aquarius is the water bear, and we're going to be exploring more of the Aquarius symbol in a couple of weeks here on the channel, which you can gain early access to that video by joining the Patreon. But yes, the water bear. So I want you to kind of think of how the water in that jug, what does that represent? It represents knowledge, okay? It represents truth. This is what we are going to see so much more of as Pluto moves through Aquarius. But here is the thing. This is also suggesting that there's going to be a wide spread of knowledge. We're even noticing this, a wide spread of knowledge and information, but what information is correct? But this is what I'm trying to get at. It can be easy to hold on to a certain view and to really run it into the ground, just to go, no, I'm holding on to this. But I feel like Pluto is going to come along, and yes, Pluto can look at power struggles, power plays. So we're going to see more of these extremes within society. But Pluto is also, I feel, going to help us wake up a bit. Even Aquarius itself, Aquarius is known as this like awakening sign, and these aha moments, these insights, these kind of like flashes of insight that Aquarians can often get. So Pluto in Aquarius, I feel, is also going to suggest, people being able to wake up, like, what's actually happening here? What's actually going on here? Why are we arguing? Why are we fighting? Why are we disagreeing so much on this? Why are we not being able to like talk about as adults here? So the polarization that we see within society, I feel, is going to be shaken up so strongly whilst Pluto is in Aquarius. And I'm also going to say this. I think, given the fact that Pluto is about corruption and intensity and power, I also think that things are going to intensify. Okay. So all the sort of political issues, technological issues, social issues, cultural issues, economic issues, you name it, it's going to get extreme. So that is something to keep in mind. But I also feel that this is about exposing anything that is shady, strange, really weird. We're seeing this in society, just the real like strangeness that's going on the internet. We're going to talk more about this. We're going to talk more about this, but I just wanted to kind of go over these keywords and these certain themes so you can have an idea of what to expect from the next 20 years. But yeah, a lot of really strange, creepy, possibly sinister behavior online that is shared on social media. But here's the thing about it. Aquarius is also related to human rights. But because of the acceleration, okay, that's also an Aquarius theme, to accelerate. But because of the acceleration of the internet and social media, the human rights stuff, it's hard to catch up. People they're having to catch up, right? It's like, well, what is the regulation here? What is acceptable here? And so we are noticing, for example, I'll just say an example, right? So family vloggers, okay? Family vloggers are being exposed left, right, and center today, okay? There was actually a story about a family who had a child, and 2 weeks old. The baby was 2 weeks old, and they made a doll version of this baby, and they actually sold the doll to the public. Okay, you tell me that's not weird. Like that's a very, very strange thing to do, isn't it? Like Aquarius energy can be weird. Like so I feel as if there's going to be more people coming forward and talking about their views. And like I said, this is already happening. We're not. We are 2 seconds. Sorry. Okay. My apologies. I just had to switch a cable there really quickly. Yes. So as I was saying there, we are noticing more and more people coming forward and talking about these issues. And this is also where the human rights comes into play, because it's like, okay, what does it mean then for a child to be born via a vlog, and to have their private personal information online, and for them to have like an internet footprint from a very, very young age? What does that look like? Like, what is the right way for that? Some people could argue that no, well, it's the freedom of the parents, etc., etc. Others could argue that no, but the child also needs to consent to da 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 da. So I hope you can kind of see where I'm going with this, but apply what I'm saying to the internet. Okay, to what's happening there. So, as I say, many people I feel are going to expose, are going to showcase their disapproval. And I also see this as more identity theft, or more people using information that they gather online and possibly using it to to try and manipulate, or to try and get something for themselves. So yeah, it like I said, it is going to get pretty crazy with all this social media stuff. But what I also want to look at here is, let's explore the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. So I just wanted to give you those words so you can kind of combine them and sort of see what you think for yourself, of course, based on, what you know. But we're going to move on to when Pluto was in Aquarius last, and then we will build on this. We're going to talk more about these themes in a moment. So Pluto was in Aquarius from last time 1778 until 1798. So that was a 20-year period. What happened? Well, a lot happened. The American Revolutionary War took place between 1775 and 1783. And in 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed, okay, putting an end to the war. Then we also see here that the French Revolution took place from 1789 until 1799. Okay, so the whole thing with this was people were there were coups happening. So people rebelling and rising up against the government. There was also the rebellion in Ireland in 1789, and this was against Britain. And here's an interesting thing, which I talk about this all the time, but the terms left and right appeared during the French Revolution, okay? So in 1789. Isn't that interesting? It's not really interesting. We kind of think about the political landscape, for example. We think about the kind of the left view versus the right view, okay? the liberal view versus the conservative view. We see what I mean? It's very, very polarizing, right? But this is the thing. Pluto in Aquarius ushered this in, if you will. If you think about it, okay, these terms left and right, that's when they started to appear, was during this French Revolution, and so it was when Pluto was in Aquarius last. So that's certainly something to think about, because Pluto being back in Aquarius here could very well suggest another huge shift when it comes to this left versus right mentality. Now, the Industrial Revolution also happened. This was between 1760 and 1840. So this had a lot to do with manufacturing. Okay, so how things really did change and evolve. My goodness, they did. And the other thing I want to say with this is Uranus was in Gemini for a period of that time, and Uranus will be entering Gemini whilst Pluto is in Aquarius once again. So Gemini is significant because Gemini is very much tied to the likes of transport and commuting and communication. About interesting thing is Uranus was discovered whilst Pluto was in Aquarius last. This was in 1781 by Sir William Herschel, and that certainly did revolutionize or change, rather. It certainly changed astrology as we know it today. Okay, you think about how in astrology now we talk about Pluto, we talk about Neptune astrology, and hey, we're talking about them today in this very presentation. So could it be suggested that astrology will also change once again whilst Pluto is in Aquarius? We could see more planets being discovered or incorporated, for example. Then the last thing is the Age of Enlightenment took place, okay? So that was between 1685 and 1815. Okay, so that had a lot to do with science, actually. And I think the scientific revolution occurred before that, and then it sort of led on to the Age of Enlightenment, and so people were really basically using their minds more, or challenging their minds, and questioning more, more of the scientific view. And just to add to that, Aquarius is linked to science as well. So what can we expect then from Pluto coming back into this sign? Well, quite a lot. And I want you to remember that we're in much different times today. We have, of course, the internet. We have social media. So with Pluto being in Aquarius, we may very well see cyber wars, cyber attacks. Okay, so this could be where using information as a way to destroy. Hacking could accelerate. Major dark web usage. It could happen. More of this could happen. Basically, I mean, Pluto, the underworld. Pluto can often point to our dark side, and that's another thing. I feel like Pluto is going to also activate or highlight our unhealthy ways of using social media. Spying as well. Thinking about being on constant surveillance. Like I said earlier, identity theft. That's certainly a big reason for why, with family vloggers and stuff like that, of presenting, your children like that online. I mean, that can be very, very risky. Fraud could also be increased. Data breaches as well. The fall of absurd cosmetic procedures could very well happen. Okay, there could be an acceleration. Of course, there could be a rise of these procedures. Of course, with Pluto energy, it like I said, it can push so far where it goes to such an extreme, and then it's like, right, okay, this needs to fall. Whatever this is, it collapses. So yeah, there could be a rise, there could be a fall. The collapse and also the rise of social media platforms. So we kind of have to wonder, is is YouTube going to be here forever? Will YouTube be here for the next 20 years? Or will there be another site that is created, another social media platform? And what is social media going to look like, even for the likes of, influencers, vloggers, astrologers, business owners, etc.? Questioning human rights issues online, and that is something that we did touch on. So I feel like more questions are going to come up here. And the human rights stuff, it's not just related to the children stuff that I was talking about a moment ago. I mean, this human rights stuff can also apply to many things. Maybe just reflect on that for yourself, in terms of what you watch online and what you see. Is there anything suspicious, anything weird? Of course, we are noticing the whole thing, with cancel culture, and even certain YouTubers who were once, glorified and so well known, and like, oh my gosh, I look up to them, I aspire to be like them. Then much information came out about them. So yeah, Aquarius, like I said, Aquarius is about knowledge, Aquarius is about truth. And so Pluto in combination with this, it's like, oh no, you think you're going to get away with certain things, the truth will be revealed. People are moving away from online insanity, I feel, is also going to happen. I feel like this is a transit that's going to help us kind of look at our shadow when it comes to online. And I think as well, our own hypocrisy. I'm just checking, is internet? That's okay. Yeah. So perhaps we're going to see where and when we can be hypocritical when it comes to the online world as well. And I feel as if this could go either way. I think it could be where there's greater social awareness when it comes to online usage, but it could also be where we notice like the real psychological implications that comes from so much online usage. I kind of wonder, especially about, okay, so let's think about Gen Z, okay? Typically the Pluto and Sagittarius generation, Gen Z, pretty much growing up with the internet, with social media, okay? But what about Pluto in Capricorn? What about that generation from 2008? I wonder what things are going to be like for them, and how their views towards social media are going to be. So could there be real like impacts of social media usage, like in a negative way? Is it that the thought of perhaps moving away from so much social media usage, it's actually going to be really difficult. I mean, social media it's designed to be addictive, isn't it? With the kind of doom scrolling, and you're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. But yeah, so like I said, there could also be greater social awareness, right? For example, I even have certain limits when it comes to my phone, right? Limits about how much usage, etc. The transformation of the left versus right mentality. So this is something that I just brought up a moment ago. But yeah, could it be that people's views are certainly going to shift? Could it be that people are going to be much more objective, or they're going to be a bit more independent in their views? It's like, well, no, I'm going to think independently about individual issues. I don't need to pick a side, this type of stuff. So yeah, perhaps exploring more of that. Psychological scientific research as well, I think that could very well happen. So we could see new sort of discoveries, and there could be more research that is presented, perhaps for the better, hopefully for the better. And that's the thing about Aquarius. Aquarius tends to also look at the better. Let me see. So that is good. And also science and medicine breakthroughs. I think there was have you heard of the Boston Dynamics? Is it the Boston Dynamics? I think I could be incorrect on that, but they're sort of basically robots. they're robots, and I think the whole point of it is so they're created more for health purposes. This is the thing I think about, the whole AI and robots and stuff like this. I have explored more of the sort of dark side when it comes to these things. But, quite possibly to kind of think about it on a more objective level, there could be benefits that come from such developments. Even if you consider how, like, something as simple as virtual assistants, how you can get virtual assistants that can help you online. So it's not a physical person that you're talking to, and a virtual assistant can maybe help you with a technology issue that you're having. And sometimes that can actually work, and that can actually be quite useful. So yeah, there could be more developments there. But then the other thing about it is robot developments could very well integrate with society. And this is where we kind of see the whole transhumanism stuff. Again, the transhumanism stuff, there could be real complications and issues with it, but there could also be other parts of it where, maybe there's room for help or growth or assistance there. But time will tell. But basically, this is what we're going to notice, I think, from Pluto being in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So some more here. The rise of the people, right? So I want you to consider how there were so many revolutions during the time Pluto was last in Aquarius. And of course, as well, this is the other thing. Pluto was, there was a protest in France around the beginning of the year. Pluto wasn't in Aquarius at the time, but there's still, I think there was still those kind of, we were coming up to it basically. And I think that there was still a lot of, people defending or people standing up for their own rights, etc. around that time. So yeah, we could very well see more protests, strikes. This is the thing, actually, I want to say. There's strikes happening where I'm from. Okay, there are strikes happening where I'm from. There is a strike, the people who work within the transport industry, they are striking. Teachers are also a part of it, I believe. The devices or the vehicles that help grit the roads when it's icy or when it's snowing, they're also on strike. So yeah, we could see more strikes, more people rising up, more people pretty much, saying, hey, we've had enough. This isn't right. This isn't what we want. Petitions being signed, and of course, profound societal action. Pluto in Aquarius could also usher in more of this multiculturalism and also diversity. Deeper space investigations. Of course, what do you see? Astrology is certainly going to boom. Okay, I feel like astrology is going to have a major revival. It's already happening, but there could be an even bigger boom. Political concerns could very well intensify. We could see the fall of certain political leaders, for example, or of certain, political views. Okay, refer back to the left versus right mentality. Highly inappropriate sexual power plays here could very well come up, or people being exposed when it comes to these matters. This could also invite the sharpening of our intuition and cosmic downloads. Aquarius can also be a pretty intuitive sign. So yeah, we could see more of this. And the collapse of many movements causes cults. We could see the rise of certain movements and causes as well. Of course, like I said, there can be a rise, there can be a fall when it comes to Pluto. So a rise and acceleration when it comes to these certain movements and causes, etc. But then also the collapse. And people choosing a more traditional path, that could very well happen. So what could very well happen is there could be such an extreme, right? Like I said, Pluto can look at extremes. So there could be such an extreme of people sort of pushing for what they want, but then maybe there could also be greater confusion or greater discord, etc. But still, things could very well go where it's like, no, we've had enough. I want to follow a different path here. So yeah, things could very well clash. Um, and I think the traditional part of it as well is sort of linked to people seeing through the hype and the trends and the clout chasing, basically, right? People sort of just doing things for attention. People just doing things for the fame. Aquarius is also linked to fame. So, yeah, we could see these extremes, and then it's like, no, I don't want to be part of that. I just want to live my life and just and not be so hyped up like that or fall for the hype. Explicit content could also be used to manipulate. Okay, we're kind of getting into a little bit more of these sort of darker themes to do with Pluto. And what is normal could very well be seductive. Again, it kind of goes back to the extremes, right? Where, like I was kind of saying earlier, things could very well just get weird, like jarring, weird, awkward, unusual, uncomfortable, like, things that just, you're like, that is so shit. And we're already kind of seeing that. I certainly have been through watching certain YouTube videos, and I think, my goodness, it's crazy what is put out there on the internet. So yeah, it could go where it just goes to such an extreme where people are just like, I've had enough of this. I don't want anything to do with this. It's just not for me. Questioning, really creepy and satanic material. But here, on a more positive note, trauma care breakthroughs could very well happen. We could see this, and that links back to the psychological changes and thinking about science and medicine. So that could be really useful for us, thinking about the trauma care and healing. And like I said, the shadow of social media usage could come to light. Hello, hi, Jasmina. Hi. Hope you're doing good. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being here, everyone. Okay, so let's now, if I just give me a moment so I can add this. I hope you are having a good day so far. Right, so let's go over Uranus. Let's talk about Uranus because we got to look at Uranus for more information about this transit. So like I said, Pluto is sort of like the main focus, if you will, okay, theme that's happening within society. And then Uranus would be another theme, but it's more of another layer, right? It just adds another layer to what is going on. And this is why we need to explore Uranus as well. So Uranus, of course, being the modern day ruler of Aquarius. So Uranus here is in Taurus, whilst Pluto is in Aquarius from 2023 until 2026. And of course, Pluto was in Aquarius last year for just a little bit. It entered Aquarius, I believe, around March time and was only there for a few weeks. But Uranus was also there in Taurus at the time. So Uranus, of course, Uranus looks at abrupt change. Uranus is about breakthroughs. Uranus looks at disorder. Things can get pretty chaotic when it comes to Uranus energy. I kind of think of a light. So a light bulb, and it just explodes and it's in pieces, So yeah, Uranus can look at things that are broken apart. And like I said, breakthroughs, okay? There can be a great deal of, new ideas coming through, inventions, innovation, looking to the future. And of course, there's independence. But with Uranus being in Taurus, this is a square. This is the type of aspect that we're getting because in the zodiac, Aquarius and Taurus create this square. They're both fixed signs. So squares can create challenge. They can look at this clash and tension. This is an interesting one, actually, because I was actually looking at some information today, and it's actually been happening for a while in Germany. This is in Germany. So German farmers They blocked the streets with tractors in a protest. So it was a protest against the government because I think it's the government who were um, trying to base. Let me actually look it up. I want to get the proper information about it. So, tractor protests in Germany. You could also just look this up for yourself, but I do find it interesting because Taurus is tied to agriculture and farming. Furious farmers dumped manure on the streets of Berlin in December. The German government watered down a plan to cut subsidies for diesel in farmyard vehicles. So, yeah, like I said, Aquarius energy looks at protests. And then you kind of think of that information in correlation with Taurus and thinking about farming and agriculture. And we could see more of these shifts, right? We're going to see agriculture, farming transformations, whilst Uranus is in Taurus up until 2026. So I think we're going to see more things accelerate. So that is something. And then also the discovery of new ancient ruins and bodies, you know, new sort of sites being discovered, the collapse of natural sites as well and reserves. And of course, there's a lot of questioning here to do with the environment here, how it is that we treat the environment. And these are big themes too, with Uranus being in Taurus. And I think that that's also linked to these agricultural transformations. There's also a bigger push to use artificial things. You think about the lab grown meat and stuff like this. These fake products. There's some controversy as well, and that's another thing about Aquarius and Uranus and also Pluto. All very controversial. So this also I feel is a big part of the polarization, if you will. Okay, I mean, if you really do think about it, there really are disagreements over big issues, like big issues, which are all connected to how it is that we live our lives. So it also makes sense that there is so much clashing, but I think it's also about how can we communicate, and perhaps we'll see more solutions with time. But for now, of course, Uranus is suggesting here clashes and tension. Still, questioning the stability of our choices could very well come up. And this has, I feel, been happening for many of us. The stability of our choices, and especially thinking about how our actions and how our choices impact the world around us. Even thinking about our bodies, for example, we've been seeing these shifts to do with how it is that we treat our bodies. Increased sci-fi music or electro music downloads. Of course, Aquarius is tied, or Taurus is tied to music and art and stuff like this. So I do find that quite interesting. How sci-fi music and electronic music is on the rise. A shocking amount of people wanting to be influencers. Clout chasing madness, just madness, right? Taurus is related to money. So consider the amount of people online who are making money online, and there are benefits to this, and it's there's positives. Basically, there's negatives and positives to everything, but we are kind of seeing the craziness going on. The rise and crash of certain cryptocurrencies. I'm pretty sure that there was a documentary out on Netflix about a fraud who he created a cryptocurrency, or he was a leader within a certain cryptocurrency. But yeah, he has been certainly caught out. So yeah, again, there could be controversy about cryptocurrency here. And here's the big thing, CBDC, centralized banking digital cash, is it? CBDC. Uh, and central bank digital currency. I said cash, but yes, central bank digital currency. But the reason why I bring this up is because Uranus and Jupiter are going to conjunct in April. So I feel as if this is going to be a time period where we're really going to see major changes come up. And we're also going to see greater divides, okay? There's going to be people who are going to resist this stuff as well. That is the thing. And the thing about Aquarius as well is I want you to remember Aquarius pushes back against authority, okay? Aquarius energy isn't just about following the crowd for the sake of following the crowd. Aquarius energy says, I'm going to think for myself, okay? And if I feel as if my independence is being taken or my freedom is being taken, I'm going to rebel. So, yeah, we could see this. We could see this become more and more evident as April starts to approach with respect to this whole, centralized banking stuff like this. Okay, so tongue, throat, and senses experiments, right? This is what I kind of think about this. I want you to imagine that as I am showing this information to you and you're watching it on your device, that you can also smell my candle, right? You can smell the candle that I'm burning in this room right now. That's what I mean. That there could be more technological changes to do with the senses as well, where even you can pick up on the smells in my environment. So I know it sounds maybe a little bit crazy. I mean, Aquarius can be kind of mad, but there could be more progress and change when it comes to this stuff. You never know, right? Yeah, exactly, Christina. You said influencers through nutrition and cooking, right? Imagine an influencer, you're watching an influencer and they're cooking something. Thank you so much. That's perfect. That's perfect. They're cooking something and yeah, you can smell that sweet pie they're making. Okay, let's move on. Intense and shocking security disruptions, which I feel as if is partly linked to like cyber attacks and identity theft and stuff like that. Many people actually choosing a simpler lifestyle. You're noticing a lot of people who are choosing to, grow their own food. And, I talked about there a bigger push for superficial or artificial products and stuff like this. But again, I just want to repeat with Pluto energy that there can be the extremes and there can be this force, right? Pluto can control and force, but Aquarius is also the independent, okay? Aquarius is like, oh, you're trying to force me to do da 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 da. No, not today. So you kind of see this, many people thinking, oh, well, the government are pushing for the artificial stuff. No, I'm not. I'm just not doing that. I'm not eating that, not subscribing to that. And then people are sort of going, no, I want to actually grow my own food. I want it to be more about connecting with the earth. I want a simpler life. I don't actually want to clout chase. I don't really care about all these influencers online and stuff like this. And, there's this superficial sort of show that can happen. I just want to focus on myself. So we could see more of this. And lastly, people you wouldn't expect declaring bankruptcy. Yeah. Okay. Even in combination with Pluto being in Capricorn right now, let's just say with this, many businesses have been closing, unfortunately. Yes, many businesses have been closing because of the cost of living and everything. And then Jupiter as well being in Taurus adds to this with the inflation and everything because Jupiter expands whatever it touches. And so being in Taurus, it looks at the inflation and the expansion of money. But this could also look at, so considering certain, like I was saying, with certain vloggers and people online who have done horrendous sort of acts. And then, of course, they lose all their money. Maybe there's even a situation or a case of a certain family vlogger who is now being imprisoned. So, yeah, she's going to be going to prison for her actions. Right, so let's look at Uranus in Gemini. It just time. Uranus in Gemini. So firstly here, of course, Gemini and Aquarius make a trine to each other. So this is smooth energy, this is harmonizing, this is enhancing energy. So what this could suggest is a surge of people using electric cars, autopilot. We are seeing more and more people using electric cars. We also notice with this asthma and respiratory experiments that could very well happen. And breath work and meditation becomes normal. Okay. And that is actually the importance of regulating yourself, breathing in, breathing out, really deeply, trying to meditate and, not be so overwhelmed by our thoughts. So could it be that there will be major breakthroughs here when it comes to this transit? Then also the fall of disingenuous people marketing themselves. I feel as if many people are going to see through the falseness or the words, the lies and the trickery. Basically, Gemini can often be this trickster. Okay, so we could see the truth basically being revealed. A forceful push for virtual reality. It's interesting because when Pluto was last in Aquarius, so this was around April, May time last year, and the Google glasses came out, didn't they? Apple released their, you can start, not the Google, the Apple, the Apple goggles. Oh, Hannah. Yeah, the Apple goggles came out. So we could see more of this virtual reality stuff. But at the same time, this is the thing, extremes. Okay. the there can be the resistance, there can be the rising up or the choosing not to take part. This is the thing about Aquarius, whilst Aquarius is like, okay, groups, communities, teams, togetherness, humanitarianism, Aquarius is also such an individual. Aquarius marches to the beat of their own drum. Aquarius is all about freedom and freedom to choose. So yes, it could be again where people are all for the virtual reality stuff, but then maybe people are not so much. People rising up against the media could very well happen. Disruptions to cities. And also education, right? We could see major transformations, especially when it comes to education. For example, we are noticing more and more people talking about homeschooling, right? Where their children are being educated within the home, and it's not so part of the government educational system. So there could be major shifts here when it comes to education, and I think even with this, a lot of people get their education online, don't they? A lot of people are just studying more so for themselves, and it's not so much about following a certain curriculum. Now, with that being said, this can also come with issues, can't it? I mean, I'll give an example. For instance, you could perhaps get someone who says, "Oh, I'm a life coach or a psychologist, or I'm whatever." But then it's also like, well, what sort of credentials do you have, and what have you studied, and what research have you done? So there can be slight issues with that as well. But anyway, there still changes here, and there could also be benefits to that as well. This whole thinking about independent learning, independent education, for example, not having to go to a university or a college that is outside of your home. You can just do it within the home, and we're seeing a lot of this. I mean, last year, for example, I did It was a course. It was a university course. It was a half a year, and the course was transformational management in a digital world. And the whole point of it was to talk about the future of work. It's kind of funny to think about it because this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm talking about the future. Okay. I thought it was perfect. It was perfect for, learning more about marketing, learning more about research, how to research, etc. So yeah, the point being, I was able to do that all within the comfort of my own home. So there's a benefit. Personal information being used for power, nervous system trials for cures and healing. All that would be great, wouldn't it? An even deeper look into the human brain. What is consciousness? What does it mean to be conscious? Ooh. Yeah, so the questioning of human consciousness, we could see major breakthroughs. The transformation of freedom of speech. Okay, that's a controversial one. And then lastly, communication and commuting breakthroughs. Okay, so yeah, there could be major shifts there in terms of how we are connected on a more technological level. I mean, it is pretty amazing to think that I can communicate now with all of you from the comfort of my home, and that's because of the technological shifts that happened. And I'm pretty sure there were major technological shifts that happened when Uranus was in Gemini last. Right, so Uranus in Cancer. Right, so this creates an inconjunction. Inconjunctions look at some adjustment. We tend to want to kind of think about how the energy is diverted or redirected. But Uranus in Cancer here, just want to mention quickly, Uranus in Gemini will be from 2025 until 2033, in case I missed that. And then Uranus in Cancer will be 2032 until 2039. So what we could notice here are the consequences of the declining family unit and family traditions. People in uproar about feminine concerns, possibly. Society will reach its breaking point when it comes to the gender debate, when it comes to gender roles, when it comes to gender equality. We're seeing so much of this today, so much of it. But Uranus being in Gemini, whilst Pluto is in Aquarius, we could very well see this breaking point. Like I said, with Pluto energy, there's a climax, but also with Uranus, there's like a breakthrough. So yes, that could be quite a jarring time, essentially. A great amount of foster parents here. A change from modern interior to sci-fi interior. I'm visualizing that, like what that would look like. People growing their own food at home. People choosing to live off the grid. Okay, so I feel like Uranus and Taurus right now is sort of ushering in a lot of these themes. And then by the time Uranus is in Cancer, I feel like many people will actually be physically moving. It's like, I'm actually moving from A to B here. Maybe Uranus and Taurus is like a bit of a preparation stage. Get your money together, get your materials together, figure things out in terms of your security, etc. And then with Uranus and Cancer, it's like, okay, I'm actually moving. Okay. And like I said, living off the grid. Hormone treatments will intensify. That could happen, or completely change. Okay. And then the last thing there, just to kind of move this along a little bit, because there's still so much information that I really want to get to. Having access to our own private water resource may be strongly desired. So there's just a few different themes, I think, right? These are kind of my predictions, okay? My predictions of what could very well happen throughout the next 20 years. So we've got Uranus in Leo. Uranus and Leo. This is an interesting one. and it's definitely going to pack a punch. So Uranus will be in Leo from 2039 until 2044. There's an opposition. Okay. This will be opposing energy between Leo and Aquarius. Oppositions like counteracting, struggle, tension, real power plays, power struggles could happen. It's like, no, I'm going this way. No, I'm going this way. And then you kind of push and pull. Of course, with oppositions, it's also useful to kind of think about, okay, how can we balance? How can we harmonize? But still, the tension can often be a bit of a struggle. So, what we could very well see would be the breaking point of narcissism and attention seeking. Refer back to the cloud chasing. Okay. Inner turmoil regarding doing what is right for all. That could be an interesting one, because Leo is more about, okay, the ego. It's more about the individual, strongly so, this is what I want to do. This is about me. So that inner turmoil could very well happen. It's like, am I going to do this more so for something greater than myself or bigger than myself? Or am I going to, more so think about it from my view? And nothing's right or wrong with this. I just want to say, there's more nuance to what I'm saying. And it's not so black and white. That is what I'm trying to say here. But these are the kind of themes I think will come up. These questions are going to come up. And also when I share this information, it's as the Aquarius that I am, I like to get you to question. I like to get you to think for yourself, okay? I like you to kind of reflect and go, how does that relate to me? And what do I think about this, okay? I want to challenge your mind. Love it. Members of society fighting for gold, possibly fighting for freedom. Oh, Leo is tied to gold. Rules gold. Heart and blood experiments. Okay, so we're noticing here some themes of scientific renewals, medicine renewals, changes. Sci-fi fashion could very well be in. What does that look like? Love the thought of it. Society will be polarized. Like I said, polarizing, especially with the opposition. It's going to be very polarizing. When it comes to fame and fortune and popularity and celebrities, we're seeing this even with Pluto being in Capricorn right now. You think about these big names, these big house names, and celebrities and the well-known people, right? We're noticed. But the thing about this is that there's also a lot of really popular, famous, well-known people online with millions of subscribers, millions of followers. So could it be that when Uranus is in Leo, oh my gosh, there's got to be major breaking away of things. Okay. We could see this. Inner child power struggles, possibly children suing their parents. So refer back to the stuff I was talking about with family vloggers, okay? Being born today. And then by the time Uranus is in Leo, they're going to be a bit older. And so maybe it's like, oh, I'm looking back on this. Oh, that was not fair on me. Collapse of certain sports and forms of entertainment. That could happen. People rising up against dark and twisted attitudes towards children. And lastly here, you think dating has changed? No. Wait until you see the dating scene in 17 years. And I've got and we're going to move on to the Saturn signs. So those are a few themes. These bigger themes. And these are just ideas. Of course, Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for a long time, so I'll probably add to this. But let's explore Saturn through the signs. So with Saturn, of course, Saturn is the other ruler of Aquarius. And Saturn stays in each sign for a lot less than what Uranus does, and Neptune and Pluto. But Saturn also tests, builds, matures, and looks at the consequences of our actions. Oh, cuts again. I thought I had this fixed. Oh. second. How are we looking now? How is the internet for you now, Natalie? Is it a bit better? Okay. Well, let me know if it does get any worse. There I was trying to fix my internet, But anyway, okay, that's good. Good. I'm glad. Right. So, like I said, let's move on to Saturn. So, Saturn essentially restricts, limits, tests, builds, matures, and looks at the responsibility of our actions. So, it's very much a planet that is tied to karma. And it's significant to explore the Saturn transits as well, because this is going to give us more information about Pluto being in Aquarius. So Saturn, of course, entered Pisces March 2023 and will be there until 2026. So I've just got some statistics that I took from online. I will reference these statistics down below. And I've just done one for each just to fly through them a little bit quickly. But with Saturn and Pisces, the thing about Pisces, I feel, especially with Saturn and Pisces, is it kind of speaks to loneliness and isolation. Okay, of course, this can also represent, things like solitude, going within, contemplation, this type of stuff. But I feel as if it's also showing up as loneliness. So here, 7.1% of the population now say that they're always or often lonely. And in the first year of the pandemic, this figure was 6%. So what does this mean? There has been a rise in loneliness. Okay, there's a loneliness epidemic, let's just say, where a lot of people feel like they're anxious or they find it hard to relate to people. There's challenges in kind of being involved, being included. And of course, with the pandemic and lockdown, Saturn was in Aquarius at the time. And that is what you often notice with people who have Saturn in Aquarius, is that people who are born during Saturn in Aquarius, they can often find it difficult to sort of contribute to the group, or they can feel like, what they contribute to the group is not enough, or there's a lot of self-doubt that can happen. But with Saturn being in Pisces, we're seeing the follow on from this. So yeah, noticing that loneliness levels are on the rise. Then with Saturn in Aries, Saturn will be in Aries from 2025 until 2028. So this, I feel, is linked to motivation, drive, will, ambition, and leadership. And of course, with Saturn energy, it can restrict, it can limit, and it can test. So the statistic here says around the world, only 15% of employees report feeling motivated. So I feel as if Saturn in Aries is going to point toward, how we can really mature when it comes to motivation. What can we sort of do in terms of, okay, these are my goals, these are my ambitions, my aims, and how can even people who are managers and bosses and so on, how can they help sort of motivate employees? So I feel like this is even pointing toward how a lot of people aren't feeling motivated right now. Okay, we do sort of see this actually. I forget the name of it, but there's a term for people who go to work and they do the bare minimum. And the reason why they're doing that is because it's like, well, why am I being made to do more than what I'm getting paid for? It's not in my contract, it's not in the agreement. So we could perhaps see more of these issues unfold whilst Saturn is in Aries, but this is also about maturity. This is about growth. This is about saying, okay, what can we change here so that, people are feeling more motivated or inspired. Quiet quitters. Thank you. Thank you, David. Yes, quiet quitters. That is the term. I think that's kind of how it's explained. Where they go to work and that's it. They're doing the bare minimum. They're not going above and beyond. It's like, why should I? So yes, I think that Saturn in Aries is going to intensify this, or it's going to be a time where these things are intensified. Thank you, David. So Saturn in Taurus. So Saturn will be in Taurus from 2028 until 2030. And this is an interesting one because Taurus is also tied to architecture. Okay, so we're going to talk more about this with Neptune and Taurus, but Taurus is very much related to art. You think about a really beautiful piece of furniture that's made. That's Taurus energy. You think about all the designs and the artwork that you see, in Rome or Paris, wherever. That's Taurus energy. That's how Taurus, this archetype, shows up. So the statistic here is the global architecture industry is expected to witness a robust growth rate of 4.2% from 2020 until 2027. So there could be like a big boost here when it comes to the architecture industry. And that, I think, is an interesting one when we combine it with the fact that Uranus has been in Taurus, right? So Uranus has been in Taurus from, I think it's 2011 or 2018, my mistake. Uranus has been in Taurus from 2018. And what's been happening here over the past few years, are these changes to do with architecture. Even, you're thinking about how things are becoming much more modernized. I suppose there's also some controversy about that, where it's like things are so boring today. It's so bland. There's no color. There's no real design in things. Yeah, just so basic to a lot of people. So yeah, I find it interesting that Uranus has been in Taurus and we're seeing these changes. But then Saturn coming along here in 2028 until 2030, I think it's going to be like, okay, there's going to be more building, right? Saturn builds. And I feel like Saturn in Taurus, it's a comfortable sort of place for Saturn to be, if you will, right? Yeah. So we could notice these particular shifts. And as I say, that is a statistic, but I got it from online and I've put all of the references below. So Saturn in Gemini, Saturn will be in Gemini from 2030 until 2032. And what I think this is going to suggest is, of course, these major shifts to do with transportation, right? And there's going to be a lot that's going to change, especially with Uranus being in Gemini. But the statistic is the global transportation industry is predicted to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 3.6% through 2030, reaching a value of 8.9 trillion by 2030. So there you go. There's going to be a lot of these big transportation, commuting changes coming up. I mean, look at the amount of money that's going to be put into all of this. And then we look to Cancer. So Saturn's going to be in Cancer from 2032 until 2035. This one I find, this is probably the one that stood out to me the most. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow. So this is taken again from a source, but the number of relatives that an individual has is expected to decrease by more than 35% in the near future. Kind of makes sense, people are having less children today. At the same time, the structure, Saturn, of families will change. And remember as well, the Uranus in Cancer transit, that's going to happen as well, right? So the number of cousins, nieces, nephews, and grandchildren will decline sharply, while the number of great grandparents and grandparents will increase, right? So, of course, people are living longer today. So there's going to be a lot of older people, but not as many younger people. But a lot of that has a big impact on the future of family. I think in the same article, it said that, I can't remember by the year that it predicted by, but by a certain year, it says that the average person is only going to have 25 relatives or something like that, which is so little when you compare it to how many, relatives people have had in the past. Oh, so interesting. So freaking interesting when we relate to this information, when we reflect on this information and we consider, what's been happening today and how will things unfold in the future. Okay, so this one I feel is linked to the Uranus and Leo stuff that I was talking about earlier, but Saturn is going to be in Uranus. Hannah, Saturn is going to be in Leo from 2034 until 2037. And by 2030, 45% of women in their prime working years, so ages 25 to 44, will likely be single and without children. So what does this tell us about romance? What does this tell us about dating? What does this tell us about love? I was saying there earlier that you think the dating scene has changed. Where do you see it in years to come? Yeah, and this information, that's what, 6 years away? 6 years away? This, of course, this is projection, right? It's a projection. It doesn't mean that it's completely true. It's just a certain projection by Morgan Stanley. But it's interesting to think about, isn't it? What does Saturn do? Saturn limits, right? Saturn restricts. So Saturn and Leo, this energy could very well look at these limitations and restrictions to do with dating and love and romance. So interesting to think about. And then, of course, Leo is tied to children. In astrology, this sign rules children. Yeah, it all makes sense when you think about how things are today and what the future holds. Okay, so Saturn's going to be in Virgo from 2036 until 2039. And this one also pretty mind-blowing. Pretty mind-blowing. This is something that came up in the course that I took last year, and how so many people who are born today, right? Imagine the generation, right? This Pluto and Aquarius generation, they're coming up. But their job doesn't exist yet. It doesn't exist. So what does that look like? So this statistics show that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 have yet to be invented. 70% of the global workforce will work remotely at least 5 days a month by 2025. And we're seeing that. We're seeing this. Automation could replace 800 million jobs across the world by 2030. Okay, the whole thing of robots are eliminating jobs and stuff like this. Yeah, again, restriction, right? Restriction, limitations. Virgo's tied to work, service as well. But I also want to say, with Saturn energy, it looks at consequences. It looks at karma. So what is the karma of these changes, right? And this is what we're noticing with these figures. How the workforce is going to change over the coming years. Saturn will be in Libra then from 2039 until 2042. And here's the statistic for this one. So the global partner relationship management market size is expected to expand at a compound annual growth rate of 16.2% from 2021 until 2028. The partnerships industry has been growing, and analysts anticipate growth to continue over the next decade. So, this thing about Saturn in Libra. So Saturn is exalted in Libra, but then this is also more of this sort of, I suppose, harmonizing energy, perhaps, because of Pluto being in Aquarius. But still, I think what this is suggesting is the significance of partnership and how partnerships will grow and how it's useful. And we're seeing this, right? We are seeing this, and I think we're going to notice more of the community piece or more of the teamwork piece. You see this, for example, online, where people do collaborations. I've been doing collaborations with other remarkable astrologers, for example. And it's great because people are able to contribute. There's teamwork, people can build together. Maybe this is what the Saturn and Libra transit is going to be like. It's like how can we build? And maybe especially coming to the end of Pluto being in Aquarius, it's almost like a retrospective, right? It's like, maybe Pluto in Aquarius is more about, okay, finding your tribe, finding what works, finding who you want to connect with, finding who you relate to more in that way, who you want to be involved with, and asking those bigger questions as well about society, about humanity, etc. But then maybe Saturn in Libra, that's going to come along as more of a maturity piece, right? Of like, what have I learned? How have I grown? How have I collabed with people? Maybe greater cooperation is likely here. But yeah, I think the whole point of this is the future of partnership. I did sort of want to, with Saturn and Libra, I also wanted to look at marriage. And I tried to look into certain statistics and figures to do with marriage, but I couldn't really find anything that was of use, to be honest. But it is interesting as well to kind of think about marriage and how things could very well evolve over time during this transit too. But then lastly, we have Pluto or Saturn in Scorpio. So Saturn's going to close off this Pluto in Aquarius transit. Of course, there's square energy with this, but so Saturn will be in Scorpio from 2042 until 2044. So today, this is the statistic. Today, around 23% of the UK around 23% of the UK adult population are over the state pension age. And by 2040, right? 2040, that's when it starts going to be in Scorpio. This is expected to reach 27%. And by 2070, 30%. This aging population will demand both more and more expensive health and social care, as well as increased spending on state pensions. So, like I said, people are living longer. And this is the thing as we kind of go further into the future, there could be a lot more older people, right? And the thing about Scorpio energy is that Scorpio is tied to taxes. Scorpio rules pensions. And that's actually a part of the reason why, people are on strike here at the moment. It's like, well, what about benefits? What about my pension? What about my future? So, yes, this is the statistic that I wanted to share about Saturn in Scorpio, because we could see these shifts here to do with the likes of pension and taxes and funding, etc. Okay, let's now move on to Neptune. Thank you so much for being here, by the way. I have enjoyed this, and I hope that there wasn't a lot of cutting. I hope it's okay now, and I hope it's not too bad when I watched over. I did make changes to my internet. It's all plugged in and everything, but yeah. So let me just do a timestamp. Yeah. All right. So Neptune in Aries. Neptune is going to enter Aries in 2025 and will be there until 2039. So this is the beginning of a new cycle. Of course, it takes Neptune 165 years to travel through all of the signs. So with that, we approach a new cycle. And the last time Neptune was in Aries was from 1861 until 1875. And just a couple of certain events that happened during that time. So Abraham Lincoln was shot dead for arguing against black men and veterans having the right to vote. And in 1865, slavery was abolished. Okay. So those are big major shifts that happened during that time. But today, we are about to enter a new paradigm. And people within the human design community have been talking about this as well, this new paradigm. And the paradigm in this, or the shift in this, is Neptune's going to enter Aries, Uranus is going to enter Gemini, and then Pluto, of course, entering Aquarius. So these generational planets are all moving signs. It's not just Pluto, it's all of them. And in a pretty short period of time, if you consider the normal sort of way of things or the usual way of things. And this, I wanted to share with you. I wanted to look at this information that I found, and I will link it below. So it's the 2025 Global Trends, and it's called A Transformed World. This was actually made or published in 2008. So the beginning of Capricorn, Pluto being in Capricorn. And if you think about it, Pluto entering Capricorn back in 2008 has really ushered in a lot of this stuff that we're talking about. It's interesting because usually, the changes that do happen in the world, I mean, let's just say certain things are planned out and carefully orchestrated. But anyway, so let's explore some of the contents from this publication to do with 2025 global trends, which is so interesting again when you consider how these generational planets are going to move. And then there is this publication. So in it has, I'm just going to read this sort of contents, and then you can look into the publication for yourself. So alternative futures, growing middle class, bumpy ride in correcting current global imbalances, multiple financial nodes, diverging development models, populations growing, declining, and diversifying at the same time. The pensioner boom, right? Remember, I was talking about that a moment ago. Challenges of aging populations, persistent young youth bulges, changing places, so migration, urbanation, ethnic shifts, demographic portraits, Russia, China, India, and Iran. Consider BRICS, for example. I remember this was published in 2008. I just want to say that. The dawning of post-petroleum age. Okay, maybe that's related to the whole, with electric vehicles, rather than using petrol. The geopolitics of energy, water, food, and climate change. A shrieking arch of instability by 2025. Oh, that's interesting. Uranus and Taurus, right? By 2025. Interesting, because the thing is that these shifts, there is a lot of instability occurring as we start to approach this new era, if you will, right? The dawn of a new era is very much aligned with Pluto and Aquarius. Big collective changes. Another thing is new conflicts over resources. And let's see if there's anything else that stood out to me. End of ideology. Hmm. Interesting. Okay. Think, yeah. I think that's just the contents that I wanted to read. But as I say, you can look up this article, this publication for yourself. But it is interesting. How that information really aligns with the dates, with the astrology. But yes, Neptune in Aries as well. Let's think about Neptune being in Aries and what that can suggest for us as a collective. Keeping in mind that, Neptune will be in Aries, Uranus will be in Gemini for a bit, and then also Pluto will be in Aquarius, and there will be sextiles between Neptune and Gemini and Neptune, sorry, Neptune and Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, and then the trine between Pluto and Uranus. So we could see here ideals regarding leadership. We could see more people choosing to act with compassion. We could also see spiritual values regarding the likes of war and combat. But at the same time, Saturn will enter Aries in 2026. There will actually be a 0-degree conjunction in February 2026. And the Saturn part of it, I think, is going to lead toward like practical aims, or being practical about our aims. So there could be a grounding, if you will, when it comes to these Aries themes to do with leadership and action and drive and how we initiate, thinking about our identity as well to do with Aries. There's, of course, I want to talk more about these shifts, and this is really just a big sort of theme, right? This is more about the bigger themes that are coming up. And then I want to get into more information and more detail about this closer to the time. But the last thing I want to say with this is the last time Neptune and Saturn were together was in 1989. Why was that significant? Because this was the end of the Soviet Union. And it's also when the Berlin Wall was taken down. And the other thing about that is it was the German people that tore it down. So to me, what that kind of suggests is that, again, it goes back to the rise of the people. This is a very important theme that I just want to say, considering again that Neptune will sextile Pluto in Aquarius. Aries is about independence and individuality, but so is Aquarius. But Aquarius is also about doing so for the good of all, right? Aquarius is like, no, I'm doing this for a cause. I'm doing this for something that is bigger than me. And it is about the masses. It's about the people taking back their power. So yeah, we could very well see many people, this is something that I've been repeating, is, rising up. But that within itself could be very combative, and perhaps as well, it's also about perhaps being able to see, okay, what is it that I'm bringing to this in terms of possible projections, for example, given that Neptune can look at projections, Neptune can look at deception as well. Maybe we are going to see greater intensities when it comes to how we are deceived within humanity. And it's like, no, I'm thinking for myself. Okay. It's about independent thought. So yeah, we could see major global shifts here within the likes of politics, especially when it comes to the economy as well, when it comes to technology too. So yeah, it's certainly things are certainly going to change. Let's just say, I think this is more about people's freedom and people's sort of human rights and their desires to, choose for themselves here. And then lastly, Neptune in Taurus. So Neptune is going to be in Taurus from 2038 until 2044. Now, the last time Neptune was in Taurus was from 1875 until 1889. So what happened during this time? Well, the French-American Union announced that enough money had been raised to complete the construction of the Statue of Liberty. And so construction started. So the Statue of Liberty was a symbol of freedom. And what I want you to keep in mind with this is Neptune's also tied to symbolism. You know, for example, certain like the peace symbol or the yin yang symbol, symbols create a story, but the symbols show a message, but it's not a, how do I say, it's not a direct message that's, you know, laid out for you in a very matter of fact way. It's more about what is triggered within the mind, within the psyche. I even kind of think as the television being very Neptunian, you know, how you're sort of conditioned through symbols and programming and messages. Yeah. And even on that note, this is the other thing I just want to say about Pluto and Aquarius. Things could get really, really weird when it comes to psychedelics, right? You know, like the whole people going to do certain psychedelics in other countries, for example, things could intensify or just get really strange, you know. Even, you know, when I think about the likes of WEED, and yes, there could be more sort of legalization of these things, but there could also be the extremes. Just remember that. Like when it comes to Pluto, extremes, it can very much happen. Yeah, I just wanted to add that because I was thinking of the Neptunian stuff. But the other thing about this is symbolism through architecture. Like I said, Taurus can be related to buildings and architecture. So when Neptune was in Taurus with the Statue of Liberty, you're kind of seeing how symbolism was communicated through architecture. And the Brooklyn Bridge was also completed at that time. And the other thing is from the 1880s until the eve of World War I, Art Nouveau, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If Nouveau, if I'm not, I'm sorry. But yes, flourished across Europe. Okay. And this was a universal style intended to unify. Okay. Neptune unifies. Neptune integrates. Neptune is about wholeness. And that's another thing with this Neptune and Aries energy. There could be a greater sense of unity. How can we unite together here? Rather than, right, fighting. Rather than it's like, I'm on this side, you're on that side, you know, we're so separated. Maybe this is more about, okay, let's band together. Okay. Let's be more about listening to each other as individuals. Still, unity, being able to unify. So it was a universal style intended to unify the fine and applied arts to create a whole work of art. And apparently, this period it ushered in all of these new arts within the world. So I have here that arts and crafts is often seen as a response to growing arts and craft is often seen as a response to growing industrialization in Europe and the rise of factory mass production at the perceived expense of traditional craftsmanship. Taurus, of course, is tied to art and our skills as well and our talents. And it also is related to production, right? In terms of, you know, what items and products are produced. So yeah, we could see perhaps more of these themes come up whilst Neptune is in Taurus during that time period. But then again, there could also be some resistance as well. Now, Neptune and Pluto will not make a square by degree, because I think Neptune will have just started a transit and then, so Pluto will be coming to the very end of Aquarius. But still, given that they are, they're creating squares by sign, there could be some tensions there. But yes, I just wanted to include a bit of Neptune in Taurus because the whole point of this video is to talk about the next 20 years, to talk about this whole Pluto in Aquarius transit and what you could very well expect. Yeah, I just see Neptune in Taurus as really pointing toward further growth to do with art, to do with style and beauty. Things could very well change in, well, possibly unpredictable ways too. So, what does the future hold for the next generation? For generation beta? 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 Time will tell, right? Really, I'm talking about these shifts. And like I said, I do want to explore more about these transits. I mean, Neptune and Taurus, I'll probably not talk about for another few years, but I just wanted to add it just so I could cover everything. And then you can even look into this for yourself. What do you think about these transits? Do you have any thoughts? Let me know. Oh, Geoff. Oh, thank you. Great. I am glad. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you find it to be helpful. So, yeah, time will tell, folks. We will see. And that might even be. Oh, interesting. Your views are what you're sharing about pensions. Interesting. Time will tell, indeed. Time will tell. Yes. Okay. Well, oh, hello, Casio. Hi, hi, hi. But anyway, so that is me, everyone. I'm going to get going. And again, if you're interested in videos early, if you're interested in PDF guides, daily forecasts, you can join the Patreon. And I hope that you have found this video to be helpful. Thank you for listening. If you did enjoy this presentation, if you got anything from it, if you learned something, you can always buy me a copy, but of course, completely up to you, no pressure. But ultimately, good luck. Ultimately, I hope this transit serves you well. I'm just going to be honest. Things are going to get kind of crazy. Things are going to get really weird here. Okay. This is Aquarius energy. And honestly, things are just going to be so unpredictable. I've suggested certain things that could very well happen, but always be open to the element of surprise when it comes to Aquarius, especially when following those Uranus time periods, because Uranus is very much this surprising energy, this shocking energy. It's unpredictable. But let's hope that this transit does serve us well. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thank you for subscribing. If you did like this video, definitely make sure that you give it a like and let me know your thoughts and your opinions on the presentation today. I really wanted to do more of a sort of matter-of-fact video, just giving you the information and hoping that you can question and kind of think for yourself, right? Think about what's your opinions, what are your perspectives about the transit, especially based on the information that I said. Like, what do you think? I would love to know. Anyway, that's me. Thank you again. And I hope you all have a lovely night. or day, wherever you are in the world. Bye, everyone.